Time takes its toll, even in a boomtown like Austin. A growing population in a city with loads of opportunity, but at the same time, a growing homeless population living on the streets, while taxpayers await a visible solution. The city of Austin received millions of dollars in grant money last year to address homelessness. And tonight, after weeks of poring over the data, the KVUE Defenders show you what we've learned about how the money has been spent. It's information the city has been reluctant to release and even talk about. The KVUE Defenders pushed for months to get the information, but the city denied our request and asked the Attorney General for a ruling on what information the city must release. So here's what we learned. Last year, the CARES Act provided money to cities across the country to help address issues related to the pandemic. In Austin, a big chunk of that, $18 million, was earmarked for the homeless. We wanted to know where that money went, and when we asked, we learned the answer is not that simple. In fact, a law that passed after Hurricane Harvey allows government agencies to keep some information private.
But it shields some information when government money is distributed for disaster relief.
Kelly Shannon with the Freedom of Information Foundation of Texas says the law was designed to protect personal information, like Social Security numbers and addresses of people receiving direct aid. So, for example, one federal emergency services grant totaled $2.4 million. More than half, according to city records, was spent on 13 clients as part of the downtown Austin Community Court, which tries to help homeless stay out of the criminal justice system and off the streets. The rest went for medical services to create a database for homeless people. Information about individuals receiving the aid was not released, but neither was the name of the company that received nearly $13,000 to create the database for homeless.
When government disaster relief money is going to businesses or nonprofits, that's where you need to draw the line. We need to know where that money is going. We need to know which businesses are receiving it, and that way we can know if it's being spent in a good way.
So when we look at direct assistance to families, here's how some of that money was spent. Take the Community Services Block Grant for $1.2 million, designed to provide direct financial assistance to families. As of February, about $240,000 had been given to 367 people in 131 households. The Defenders asked for an update and did not get a response. A little more than $1 million was set aside to help people experiencing homelessness and impacted by COVID-19. That money went to pay for the leases for 5 hotels used as pro lodges, which, according to the city, helped provide temporary shelter to 615 people. Another $1 million went to emergency rental assistance. That money ended up helping 147 people, 4 more than targeted, and the money was spent within 7 months.
The answer for all of us has to be housing. We end homelessness with housing, and that has to be our core focus.
So what about long-term housing solutions? Many people look at the success of Community First, which is taking people off the streets by having them work to pay for more permanent housing. It's a program that's been so successful, it's adding 1,400 more homes.
We need to work quicker. We need to embrace things like Community First and expand them, and embrace things like purchasing some of these hotels to house people, to have places where we can put more tiny homes. We have to do all of those things.
The city is investing in more permanent housing, setting aside $2.5 million for a multifamily rental development. The city expects to execute this loan with a Missouri developer sometime this month, so no information yet as to how many people it will serve. And the biggest chunk of the money, $10.8 million, is just now starting to be laid out. We're told this money will pay for overnight shelter, rental assistance, and supportive services. Again, no word how many that could help.
A lot of that money is being invested in creating permanent supportive housing that is going to open up in the coming months and years. So just like when you build a house, if you're building a brand new house, you don't live in it when the construction crews are all over it.
The reality is the $18 million Austin received last year in grants didn't make much of a dent in Austin homelessness.
Well, certainly I understand their frustration, especially in my district.
Councilmember Kathy Tovo says it will take a lot more money to fix Austin's homeless problems.
It is an expensive process of wrapping that individual with the services he or she may need, or that family may need, to find the right place and provide the right resources.
In a recent city council meeting, the city's homeless strategic officer said the city really needs $515 million more dollars.
And that plan is to house 3,000 people, hundreds of them getting housed this year, and 3,000 people over the course of the next 3 years. And that would be drastic.
Council members just voted to give $100 million toward that effort, but it is still $293 million short.
And the city of Austin has allocated significant funding and an increased amount of funding year after year toward this effort, but we really need that private sector, those other public partners to come forward and match or increase that investment so that we can get to the place that we need to in this city.
Only time will tell whether spending more money will solve the issues. We reached out to every city council member and the mayor, the city manager, and the homeless strategy officer. We tried for weeks to coordinate an interview with Mayor Steve Adler, who agreed to an interview, then canceled, then agreed to an interview last week, and then canceled again. Instead, he sent us this statement, which says in part, quote, "We are always trying to learn more about our past and current investments to better inform our future work. Council has requested yet another such report, which we will receive during our upcoming budget process." You can learn more about this story at KVUE.com. For the Defenders, I'm Terry Gruca.